settle into their chairs. Let's all take a few deep, conscious, healing breaths, and by that I mean that as we breathe in, we let our bellies fill on up into the chest. We breathe deeply, consciously, knowing that that breath of life is healing and renewing and restoring us on every level. It's a way to say yes to being enlivened, renewed. When we feel the breath of exasperation, then we are called to be a little more conscious that our breath be one of healing. And for all those we're holding in our hearts, we know that some of our beloveds are having a hard time right now taking a deep breath, literally, emotionally, spiritually. So as we breathe with ease, with peace, with comfort, we let our breath be a kind of healing blessing for all those right now who are having difficulty taking a deep healing breath. This morning we've got our Advent candle lighted for faith. Some of us know it takes a great deal of faith sometimes to keep saying yes to what we're called to. And so I read these words from the book, The 12 Powers by Charles Fillmore. Charles Fillmore wrote, "It is not necessary that the one who touches the button of faith shall understand all the intricate machinery of faith. Simply, we make contact. And we know, like one who turns the electric switch, that the light or power will spring forth. Our faith center is like this. We tune into it. We know that our faith center is real. When we have the faith that our minds are open to the spiritual essence of this power of faith within us." Charles Fillmore felt the power center of faith was located in the pineal gland, which is in the middle of our brain. And so I'm going to ask each one of us to focus on the center of our brain right now, knowing that there's this place, they call it the seat of the soul, or the third eye. They call this place the power center of faith. Just focus on that place right now. That place of creative consciousness, that place of the imagination, the power of imagination and faith working together unfolds our lives before us. As Elijah said, we have the faith that people at their core are good. As Demir said, we have the faith that we have the strength and the stamina to fulfill that which we are called to. So as we take a few moments of silence, I just invite each one of us to focus on that place within us, that physical location, this third eye, this seat of the soul, this place that many of the masters and teachers have said is the place where we connect with this knowing that even though something is unseen in this moment, it is already being called into manifestation through our faith. What are you calling into manifestation this day? Go into the silence to feel our center of faith. What are we turning on our light center for this morning? What are we turning on our light center of faith? Why do we want our faith center to be strong this morning? What are we calling forth into manifestation in our lives and in the world? We take another deep breath. We breathe into that place of faith within us. We say, so it is, and so we let it be. Namaste. I have faith that there will be light. And I know this is so because I can envision someone turning the switches and oh, see, this is how it works. So what are we turning our faith for this morning? Anybody want to say, what are we deeply testing? World peace. Let it be so. And you know what? It's already happening. That's where we get tripped up. Well, we don't see it fully yet, so it must not be happening, but it's like the rice we're cooking on the stove. It may not be fully done yet, but it is dinner. It is happening. It's getting ready. What are we turning on our faith for?
After watching yesterday's football game, I've got all the faith in Alabama.
Our niece will be very happy to hear that. Roll Tide. Okay. Her family now has University of Georgia, University of Alabama, Furman, Clemson, and University of South Carolina. 5 of them in one family. Let there be peace. Okay, what else? What do we have? What are we holding our faith for today? What do we want to? Yes, ma'am.
I definitely am holding in my faith that the power of individual opinion has no strength against the power of our universal oneness. We will prevail.
Universal oneness prevails. One more, Dan.
The Bush family.
The Bush family. We hold what? The faith for their peace, their one of the great statesmen has passed. Yes.
I have faith that my sister's brain surgery will be successful.
Your sister's brain surgery successful. So let's take a deep breath. We have 12 powers, Charles Fillmore tells us, in that system, 12 powers. In the other system that I was trained in, there are 9 powers or gifts. I'm just glad to know that we have within us these capacities, these qualities that help us to tune in and stay firmly plugged into our highest consciousness. That's what these powers are for. They're like tools. Today we're talking about the tool of faith. Every one of us, I bet, in here has a story about when your faith was really high and it carried you through. And we also have our stories where we feel our faith diminished, right? Right? I mean, we're going to speak truth. So the adventure of light is what I've titled this talk today because it's the beginning of Advent. The word Advent comes from the same root as adventure. You know, it's the going forth into the journey. And usually we don't have the full map. Usually we don't have a full itinerary. Usually we have not been given a brochure about where our journey of life will take us. And if you got one, I want to know where you got it. But we have experienced this idea of faith that sometimes we take a step forward and we don't know how in the world we're going to understand what the next step after that is. But I think by now, all of us in this room have learned that we are called to move forward in our calling and don't stop now, keep moving forward. Because these are the times when the calling needs to be fully known and fully expressed. And it doesn't mean you have to call yourself a minister or a missionary or a healer or a teacher. Just go forth in your calling, whatever your calling is taking you to, that's life-affirming for our species. Because our species needs us all to be awake. Carl Jung said, "It is to the mystics that we owe what is best in humanity, and only the mystic brings what is creative to religion itself. I find that to be true. You know, the first time I discovered Rumi, the first time that I discovered Eckhart Tolle or Meister Eckhart, I saw in them something that went beyond religion, went beyond the traditional teachings. I wanted to know what else the mystics saw. I'm intrigued by these people that we call the mystics. I feel Charles Fillmore was a mystic. And he said, the mystic is one who intimately experiences God. So there's lots of ways we can talk about that, but because we're in the season of Advent, that's a Christian celebration marking the 4 Sundays leading up to Christmas and to the birth of the Christ consciousness, and there's qualities and aspects that we're going to need in the journey. And faith certainly is at the top of the list for me. I don't know about you, but the faith and the trust that all things are working together for my good and the good of my world, even when I can't see it clearly. And for Advent, I have to put on the mind and heart of the mystic to move into it. When we were decorating the church the other day, I thought, well, you know, it's easy to put up decorations, it's easy to put up some special lights and some wreaths, and that's all wonderful and lovely. But what I want to do is I want to feel the connection with Spirit. So as we're decorating, it's so that we can feel our connection with Spirit. As we light Advent candles, it's so we can feel the connection with Spirit. We're all in a journey. We're all in an incredible journey. And so I invite you to see this season of Advent as a spiritual journey and let yourself feel your connection with Spirit and see what comes for you during this season as we approach the Christmas. Just see what comes. Make it a journey, because some of us will get caught in the crowds at Kohl's or Nordstrom's, or we'll get online and get caught into that, of ordering the gifts and planning the parties, and all that's lovely and wonderful, and the food, isn't it good? But if we're not feeling our connection with Spirit, then we've lost an opportunity. And I personally find this time of year to be one of those times when the windows and doors of heaven are wide open. Meaning, it's easier for me to feel the presence somehow at this time of year. So, let's approach it as if we are mystics. So Advent, the journey of the mystic, is the story of you, it's the story of Jesus, and it's the story of our species. We're looking at this metaphysically. Some folks in our species are giving up. We bless those who feel that they have to give up at this point. The call I feel for all of us is that we keep knowing our species is resilient, and like Elijah said, we have basic goodness within us. We want to keep knowing that and affirming that and having the faith in our species and in the image of God likeness that's been put into us. Everybody breathe. Oh, God. Faith, to even consider a journey, a spiritual journey, to even consider that we're mystics, to even consider that we're opening up to the Christ consciousness as we go, that takes faith. And to stay in the journey takes faith. Because sometimes we launch out on a journey of healing, of learning, of relationship, some kind of journey of awakening. We launch out on our journeys, we have great faith, and then something happens and we feel like we've been forsaken. We feel like, we feel like we're disconnected from Spirit. We feel like we've lost that mystical connection. Have you ever felt that way? Of course you have. When we feel that way, it's a good time to remember, like Bobby was remembering, wow, I've been surrounded by miracles and connections and serendipity my whole life. I need to remember that. When I feel like maybe I've been forsaken. You know, one time David and I, we arrived in Tempe, Arizona, at the Unity Church there. It's the only time this ever happened in all of our travels together. And we got there and we walked in, we usually check in, you know, a few days early, so I think it was Friday. We got to the town, we went to the church, and we walked in, we just wanted to introduce ourselves. We're your speakers Sunday, and we're doing the workshop after service, and their response was, "Didn't know you were coming." From the time that we were scheduled in, they had a new minister, and they had a new programs director, and somehow, somewhere in there, so we managed, I think, to smile. You know, you're on the road as a workshop presenter, a Sunday speaker, and you arrive and they don't know you're coming. That's not good. So we didn't give the Sunday message. Somebody else had been booked in. They announced at the Sunday service we were doing the workshop that afternoon, and 8 people showed up. They didn't know we were coming. So I looked at David and I said, something profoundly spiritual, I'm sure. Oh my God! It's going to be a complete washout. It would be, Bobby, like going to a gig and nobody's there. Right, you've been there, done that. So, oh my God, what are we going to do? This was part of our, our monthly income, and oh my God. And I remember David, he leaned over to me and he said, we don't know how yet. Something's going to come through for us. We don't know how yet. Yeah, but there's only 8 people. We don't know how it's going to happen, but something's going to come through for us. We finished the rest of the tour. We got back to Taos, New Mexico, where we're living at the time. We went to the El Prado post office. We opened up our mail, and there was a $5,000 check to our ministry. And David and I were speechless, which doesn't happen very often. But it was just like he said, we don't know how. Everybody say that. We don't know how. But something's going to come. It's going to be okay. Whatever it is, whatever's going on, the job, the finances, the relationship, the grandchildren, the children, the whatever. We don't know how. But in faith, we know that a way is being made. With faith, we know that the way is already being made for our healing, for our restructuring of our lives. So, faith. So, faith to light the oil lamp, even though we don't know how long the oil is going to hold out. So, as we approach this time of creating our new center, and every once in a while, I'm glad to say it's not very often. Every once in a while, I feel, like that. And it doesn't last that long. But, I've done this on a small scale before, but not on this scale. And so I catch myself, and then all I hear is, keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Spirit's moving, so are we. We don't know all the ways it's all going to come together. But we know the way is being made. That's what it takes, just like the people, the Jewish people in the days of old, kept knowing that the oil was holding out beyond what it was supposed to. Approaching my 70th birthday, I think, I need somebody in here who's 45 or 50. Somebody who can run circles around themselves, much less anybody else. And then I keep getting the okay in my spirit. No, this is your work to do in this place at this time, and everything is unfolding as it should. Keep moving forward. And some of these folks, you know who you are. You've been out there. Some of you are older than me. Rusty was at the board meeting the other night, and she's getting all kinds of energy and creativity moving to do an art project at the new property. It's just going to be so exciting and delightful. And I'm watching people catch on fire with this stuff, Holy Spirit fire. And I am so happy about that. Our oil is holding out. Our oil is holding, everybody say, our oil is holding out. Charles Fillmore, and that's an interesting person to choose for faith because, you know, he was a burly, tall, bulky kind of fisherman guy. You know, he wasn't trained in the fine races. He was a big old fisherman. And when it came time to answer his call, he said, nope, I don't know that guy, Jesus. I've never seen him before. Well, it looks like you. We think we've seen you, the Romans said to him. We think we've seen you with him. And Peter said, no, it couldn't have been me. I was fishing. I was fishing with Tom Jones out of the Myrtle Beach Pier. I've never seen this guy, Jesus. He kept denying Jesus 3 times. And then Peter became one of the greatest disciples and then apostles. So it's okay if we've let our faith diminish sometimes. The point is to be conscious enough to know that you're in charge of continually tapping into that reservoir of faith. Nobody can do that but you, because it's there. So the journey of the mystic, second Sunday of Advent, will be peace. The peace that passes all human understanding. This is where we're headed. Faith takes us to peace. The peace even in the midst of the darkest, hardest, goofiest, confusing times. I think we're there. So it's going to be important through our faith that we know this too, this event, this circumstance, this heartbreaking thing, this is taking me to my peace. It's just important that we know that. And third Sunday will be the Advent quality of love. Because our journeys of awakening will take us into the desert. I promise you it will if it hasn't already. And in the desert we think, oh my gosh, nothing's happening, nobody's here but me, I'm all alone in this desert. How many of you have had a desert experience where the desert is full of Holy Spirit energy? You know about that. Well, the journey will take us into our wild places. I have said this more than once over the last year of getting this property. Have I lost my mind? And Spirit says, no, just keep moving forward. Have you ever been in that place?
Oh, yes.
Your faith, your calling is taking you somewhere, and then you look around and you go, how did I get here? I've lost my mind. Well, some of the mystics say, good, you need to lose your mind to be in a place of faith. Our journeys will take us into the unknown, where we'll feel alone. We won't know the terrain. We'll feel uncertain. Anybody ever been there? Every time I say to Spirit, I'm not sure how to do this, I'm not an expert, and Spirit just keeps saying, keep moving forward, the experts are showing up. Keep moving forward, the experts are showing up. Oh my goodness, how exciting is that? We'll go into uncharted territories. Our journey, our calling will take us to places that we never expected to be. Did we mean to come to Myrtle Beach? No. How many of you have that in your story? I never meant to be in Myrtle Beach. I know, I've heard your stories. And yet here you are. And finally, we'll get to our fourth Sunday of joy. And joy is when we're in the desert and we're feeling alone, everything's so quiet, and then we realize the desert is full of sounds and movement. There's a lot that goes on in the desert, and we begin to move into deeply listening in the desert times. Those times when I don't know exactly what to do, I keep getting the message, listen, listen. This is a desert place. You don't know what's happening. Listen. In the wild places, we have our epiphanies. You feel like you're in a wild place. I don't know what I'm doing here. Everything's uncertain. I think I've lost my way. And Spirit will remind you, in the wild places is where the epiphanies can happen. I'm just out here in the desert up on this mountain, I don't know what, and suddenly there's a burning bush or an angel or an epiphany, and inside you go, oh my goodness, if I hadn't have been brought into the wild places, into the desert, I would not have gone into deep listening to know that epiphany. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You've been there. The unknown, we feel the presence, and in the uncharted territories, we know that we know that we know beyond the events and beyond the circumstances. How many of us have been able to say that? Things feel like they're falling apart, and somewhere within you, you say, you know, I don't know how, I don't know the way out of this, but I know the way is being made. That is the journey of the mystic. To know there's something bigger, guiding, holding, directing, even when we're not sure. Even when I can only see this far. I can't even see where my foot's supposed to go down. But something in me says, well, just put your foot down. Y'all remember Indiana Jones? The adventure of awakening, even in the darkest times, most importantly, in the darkest times. There's within us a light that keeps pushing us towards knowing ourselves as the light. So let's take a deep breath. The light within us will keep pushing us forward so that we know the light within us. Sometimes I want to pray really, really hard so I can feel the presence of God. I propose to you that you open to feel the presence of God. The epiphany of the Advent season is, and the metaphysical story is, that we're all going towards this birth of our own highest consciousness. We're all going towards this birthing of this awakened consciousness. So it wasn't just the story of one baby, one person, refugees, by the way, who had to go to another land. Eventually they went to the land of Egypt. They were refugees there. And they were welcomed there for their safety because the babies and the land were being killed by the old consciousness. Herod and his boys were killing all the babies under age 2. What a crazy story that is. When a society is willing to kill its children, the society itself is dying. So we just have to take a personal check for me constantly. You know, am I willing to keep opening my heart even when I don't know all the right and perfect answers, but I know the one answer has to be, as Michelle reminded us the other day in our Artist Way class, respond with love. And the response has to be out of love, even when we're uncertain. The light within us is what's pushing us. Sometimes people say to me, I don't know, I wish I had the same relationship with Spirit that you do. I just have to respond with love. But I have to respond with this. Just as you would enter into any relationship, getting to know the beloved friend, spouse, lover, partner, you enter into a relationship and you get to know them. The greatest relationship we have is the Holy Spirit within us, but often it's the last one on our list to get to know. So maybe this Advent season can be about getting to know the light within us. Personally, for me, that's what I'm doing. So let's close our eyes, take a deep breath. This season can feel hard for some of our beloveds, for so many reasons. So whether we're celebrating Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or Christmas, we simply open to the metaphysical, mystical understanding of these stories that have been passed to us thousands of years. We allow our hearts and minds to awaken to that highest consciousness, the Christ consciousness, the anointed consciousness. We let our hearts and minds open to this adventure, this journey. Where is this journey taking us? Where this journey taking us? What are we being opened to? I propose we're being opened to know ourselves as the light. To know ourselves as the light. And we give great thanks for remembering this. We say, so it is, and so we let it be.